Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Hope you can see me okay. We are coming to you live from Agawam County High School. Thanks to the 4 students for saying good morning for everybody. Appreciate that. At each school we come to, we want to get you guys involved because just like Kelly said, it is about you. This whole project from start to finish is about you. In fact, when we do finish up, the last kind of presentation we're going to be giving is going to be incorporating you into that, so you come and present some of your work. There's a lot of incentives on taking this seriously, okay? But we don't want to make it so serious that you're bored to death, okay? I remember, some assignments in school where you had to do it, and when you have to do something, and there's a lot of that in school, but it's all for your, your best well-being in the end. But you kind of feel like, oh, here we go again. But I don't want this to be about that. I want it to be fun. I want it to be educational. I want you to pull stuff from this that you'll continue to use from 4th grade all the way up to seniors getting ready to go off to college. Okay? So today is our official first video presentation. And for those of you guys who were available last week when we discussed kind of an overview, I want to run through that really fast just in case some of you guys weren't present, okay? Basically what we're doing here is we're giving 14/15 counties and even some counties that are participating outside the opportunity to become engaged with this program developed for students to create their own work, your own stories, which at the end will be used. We'll print those books, and we will have book signings. Your books will be available for purchase even, maybe. There's tons of things we could do. To give you kind of an example, this is kind of a shining star example, is in Breathitt County High School. We have
Well, she just kept hitting stuff, and I'm sewing.
We gotta be sure to mute your mics, everybody, because I'm picking up a few sounds. All right, thank you. In Breathitt County High School, we have a junior. His name's Ted Austin Hudson. Now, Ted wrote an adaptation to Noah's Ark. He wrote his own version of it. He did the illustrations. I visited with Donna Combs and Shorty Combs there at Breathitt County, and we worked with Ted and developed his story. There wasn't much I did really except kind of pull everything together and create what's known as print-ready pages, which is a publishing term. But anyway, right now, as I'm speaking to you, and as we're visiting together, Ted's books is being printed. They are being printed in Ashland, Ohio. They're running off the presses, so he's going to be an official author, junior in high school. This is the kind of stuff I want you guys to do, okay? Now, before we get started, I am going to warn you that 2 things. First of all, at the end of this session, there'll be about 15 minutes. If you want to stay a little longer and ask questions, participate, maybe get some of the glitches worked out, or if students have questions about the program, that's fine too. That's first thing. Second thing is, today is probably going to be the least exciting day of all. But, just bear with me. The reason it's going to be the least exciting is because we're laying the foundation. Okay? This is about learning. We're going to have fun, but it's also about learning. It's about craft, too. All right?
Don't ask me.
All the way up to 12th grade. When I say craft, I mean you need to use the tools that you've learned in the classroom in order to write and construct a proper story, okay? And we're going to talk today about the 5 elements of a story. We're going to talk today about how are you going to decide what kind of story you want to write about. The goal of this is, like I said, is for you to write your own story and then use illustrations in conjunction with those words to create a book.
Can you get it bigger?
So we're going to be talking about that a little bit.
He exited that hall and went back, those boys did too.
Some of you guys are still, you've got to mute your mics, okay? You see the little microphone up there by your name where it says participants? You want to click on the little mic button, make sure there's a red slash through it, because if there's not, we can hear you out here in Breathitt County. We can hear them, can't we, guys? You guys hear them? Okay. So be sure and mute your microphone, okay? All right, thank you. Okay. Let's start off by just talking about it like this, okay? And this class is participating, and I'm kind of got my back's turned to you guys, but I'm sorry, but we'll move forward and roll it. You guys forgive me, right? Okay. This class is participating in the program too. But let's start off by thinking about story in terms of what do you like? Now, I'm sure each of us can think of particular types of books, graphic novels, comic books, different storylines that we prefer and we like, okay? So the first step into this, you have to draw inspiration from something. And I don't care if it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid all the way to, I don't know, SpongeBob. It doesn't matter, all right? My goal is for you to create a story. Now, that doesn't mean that you can steal ideas. I don't want you to do a book on SpongeBob. I want you to create your own characters. I want you to create your own story. So what I mean by drawing inspiration from, find things that you like. Ask yourself why you like those particular books. And then you can pull some of those ideas and maybe story construction from your favorite types of books, okay? Maybe it's a certain type of character you like. Superheroes, that's a big one. Damsel in distress, princesses, right? We got villains, we got aliens, we got heroes. I mean, there's unlimited amount of options that you can pull from. You can even think outside the box a little bit. There's certain movies and
remember, you can't call us. If you call us, it kicks us totally off. Do not call us. You have to join Link through the calendar on Link. Mute your microphone and don't call us.
Just be patient.
I'm trying to see who's talking to me.
Sherry Morgan. Okay, now get us video.
We do have video.
Okay. All right. Why can we not see it? All right, guys. Just interrupting here just a second. When you join, make sure you mute and make sure you do not call us, because when you do, it kicks us totally offline. So Mr. Epling's going to start back again.
All right. So I'm not really sure where you guys last left off with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up kind of where we are now, and we're going to talk about your preference of story, okay? Pick stories that you enjoy, books you enjoy, animated series, movies, and try to write something about what you prefer to read, okay? Here's some things I want you to think about while you're writing your story, because the goal before the next time we meet together, which is going to be next Monday, is for you to write your story. You need to pay close attention today, though, before you just start writing, because you have to think ahead here a little bit. And the reason for that is you're given 3 options on what you can create in this program. The first option is a picture book. Now, we all know what a picture book is. It's a traditional children's book. There's not a lot of words in a picture book. There's full illustrations covering the entire page. That's one option. Your second option is going to be a mini comic or a graphic novel. So basically, that's a comic book. Now, if you're choosing to do a comic book, there's a few guidelines that I want you to kind of abide by, and we'll go over that closer to character design and setting design and things like that, okay? The third option that you have is a chapter book. Now, in a chapter book, you have more words than a picture book. So those are your 3 options. And why that's important before you start writing your story is, if you start out saying, okay, I'm going to do a picture book, and you write, let's say, 500 words, okay, and you want to fit those into so many pages, there's a good chance that your picture book will turn into a novel, okay? So you want to think about this before you start. Another thing is, while you're looking over your preferred types of stories, maybe you could think about the elements of a story. Think about what is the beginning of the story? What's the middle and what's the end? Now, that's not the elements, that's just the construct. So think about, how does the story start? Also, I want you to think about, where is there a problem in the story, the conflict? What happens that keeps the plot moving? Okay? Now, this is you thinking about stories you like, okay? Another thing, I want you to think about the ending. How does the author connect all these together? How do they connect the characters, the plot, and the problem? How do they solve the problem? So these are the things I want you to pay attention to while you're reading your own favorite stories, okay? So whenever you begin to write, you want to first sit down, think about what kind of book am I creating? Pull inspiration from your preferred types of stories and books, okay? And then what I want you to do, I want you to sit down and I want you to write, okay? And while you're writing, you have to pay attention, though, to what we call the 5 elements of a story. Now, we're covering grades 4 through 12 here. I understand that, all right? And because of that, it's important that the teachers, okay, I need your help in this, because I'm trying to find a happy medium here, with that big of a range. So when I start talking about the 5 elements of a story, I know a lot of 4th graders are going to be kind of like, what? And that's okay. All right? That's where you come in. I need your help. If I kind of just said, let's just draw pictures and tell me about your pictures, the 11th and 12th graders, 10th graders are going to say, oh, this is not good for me. So we got to work together to make this happen, okay? So the 5 elements of a story we're dealing with here, first of all, is the plot, right? We have character, we have a theme, and we have setting. And let's see, that's 4, right? I think I have 5 more. The conflict, there we go. Let's talk about these for a second then, okay? The first one we're going to be talking about is the plot. Now, the plot is sort of the sum total of the story, okay? The plot is going to be the who, what, when, and where, and how everything connects, okay? When you think about your plot, you may also introduce the conflict. Now, the conflict's what we talked about earlier, talking about a problem. Usually, if you read a story, any story is going to have some sort of a problem. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're big, okay? If it's a love story, you may have the problem could be one of the characters love the other characters, but the other character doesn't return that love, all right? Another type of conflict could be science fiction related. You have an alien race going to invade Earth. That's a pretty big problem, right? So we want to think about introducing a problem. Problems are great for stories. They're almost essential for stories because they give the character something to do, right? If you didn't have a plot, you just had a bunch of characters hanging around, you might have an episode of Friends or something. But we want to kind of stay away from that, okay? Nothing against Friends, if you like the TV show. So, okay. So think about that for a minute, all right? Character. Character is very important too. You have to think about the types of characters you're introducing into the story, okay? There's heroes, there's villains, there's supporting characters, such as a friend of the main character, and then there's lead characters, right? A writer wants to try to understand everything about their characters. And what I mean by that is, when you sit down to write a story, try to think about how your characters would react in certain situations. What I like to do personally, okay, when I'm writing a story, I want to think about my characters as individuals. Think about your friends, okay? You might know your classmates even. You have a lot of different personalities in a classroom, right? Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's going to handle something the same way. So when you're writing your story, try to introduce a lot of diversity in there. Have a lot of different types of characters. See how they interact. Now later on we'll do character design. There'll be a lot more drawing when that happens. And what we'll do is we'll sit down and I'll kind of help you and walk you through how to design your character. Okay? But you don't need to worry about how your character may appear on paper just yet, although you may offer descriptions of your character, what they look like in your story. But it's important right now to think about things like, all the way to like, what type of movies does your character like? I mean, it may not apply to your story, but you see what I mean. Think about your character as an individual. Get to know your characters, flesh them out completely, okay? All right, let's move on to We did conflict, and now we're going to talk about theme. Now, theme should not be confused with subject. When we talk about subject, it could be like a war or sports, okay? Theme isn't the subject. The theme is going to be basically the tone of it in terms of what kind of elements you're introducing, like friendship, love, you may say revenge, crime. It helps support the conflict, okay? So give your characters a problem to solve, and then put all your story into one type of theme, okay? Centered around the conflict, okay? The last part is setting. Now, setting is really fun. Sometimes when I go to schools, what we'll do is we'll talk about setting. It's basically your environment, right? Where the story's taking place at, okay? We do an exercise when I go to schools where we'll all get together. The entire classroom will offer input on designing an alien. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never seen an alien, okay? And I imagine if I were to meet an alien, what they might look like, okay? And there's a lot of options, I guess, out there. What if the alien is from a world completely made up of water? What if their world is, their entire planet is baked by a sun, okay? What would the alien look like? And so what we do is each student will give a type of characteristic about the alien. So we might say that our alien's only going to have one giant eye, okay? All right, there's our eye. And we might say, okay, we're going to give him 2 antennas. Okay? And the body is going to be kind of short. He's going to have a giant mouth and sharp teeth. All right? He's going to have a small belly. He's not going to have any arms. And he's going to have legs with little knees. All right. So each one of the students will give kind of their own idea about what the alien should look like. We combine all those together and we draw a character. And this would be a version of that, okay? Now, depending on what classroom you go to, the alien is going to look different in every single classroom, right? Depending on what the students suggest. So keep it in mind that when you're designing your characters, when you're creating a problem for them to solve, when you're thinking about where your story is going to take place at, and when you're thinking about the theme of your story, try to pull all these together, okay? Story design is really important. This is really where everything can comic strip. The more pages, the better with all of this, okay? But when you're choosing to do a comic book or a comic strip, when I create my comic strips for the newspapers, you have to take into account, and you have to do this for every choice you have. You have a limited amount of space on a page, okay? So this is a traditional, let's just imagine this is a regular piece of paper here, okay? 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, right? Now, like I said last time, you can take this piece of paper, you can flip it around, you can make it so that it's long ways instead of portrait, and that'll affect your space a little bit, but this is what we're all working with, genuinely this shape right here. So when you're creating a comic, a mini comic or a graphic novel, you're going to have what's called panels, right? Now, all of you guys who understand what, like comics, you know what a panel is. A panel, what is a panel, guys? Anybody want to help me out here? What's a panel in a comic? Anybody know? Nobody? It's a box, right? The box that appears on the page. So you have a box that everything takes place in. A little box. And you can shape those boxes however you want. And all those boxes fit on a page within the space you have, and you can shape them however you like. You can use as many as you want. But what I want you to try to remember as you're creating this is that you're limited to your space, okay? If you try to put 50 panels or boxes on a page, then your comic's going to be, you can't read it, okay? So this is kind of like one example of how you could structure your page, okay? These are panels, and that's how you format it. For picture books and chapter books, it's a little different, all right? You have the entire page to work with, so you can draw an entire full illustration to fit on that page. Now, I mentioned to you guys something last time about the holler.org. Now, the Holler is a website created by UPike, and this is going to be our platform for us to share videos, how-to videos, how to draw animals, how to draw humans, how to construct a story. All of these things we're covering are going to be available through resources on the holler.org, okay? Now, also on the holler.org is an area for you guys to leave comments. I don't know if any of you guys are a fan of Good Mythical Morning. It's a YouTube channel. It's pretty popular, but they have a huge subscription base. So a lot of people like it. And one of the best parts about Good Mythical Morning is the community. They have a lot of opportunities for those involved and participating to interact, share ideas, what's working, what's not working. I encourage you guys to go to theholler.org. There's going to be a link provided to your teachers pretty soon on the exact location for this workshop. And go there, and you've got a lot of resources you can reference. I'm going to be putting a lot of stuff on there. Interact with one another. Share your ideas. What are you having problems with? I will answer questions on there. I'll be one of the moderators. And if you have a question for me, leave it on there, and I'll respond, okay? All right, let's move forward a little bit here. Now, the next time we meet, this is really important. I want you to write your story. So you have to think about now what type of book you want to create, okay? Think about how it looks, the size, those things we talked about. Like a picture book is, have very full illustrations. A chapter book has more words than a picture book. A mini comic is a smaller comic, and a graphic novel is a larger comic. Now, those are your options, okay? Think about the type of book you want to create and write your story. You may decide to create a story that is set, like we said, in some sort of science fiction-based story. There's no rules on your stories, okay? We're not saying you have to do a certain type of story. Pull from the things that you like, pull ideas and concepts, but don't copyright anything. Don't plagiarize something. I hopefully won't be able to see any SpongeBob picture books, okay? Create your own characters. That's the main goal, all right? And why is all this should be taken seriously? Now, that's a good question. I can tell you something today that kind of might shock you, but do we have any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans? Anybody like the Turtles? Okay. Back there? Turtle fans? Okay. All of us are Turtle fans pretty much, right? Well, let me share something with you about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were written by two friends, Eastman and Laird, in Chicago, Illinois, okay? Before they became images on lunchboxes and T-shirts, had their own animated series, video games, board games, even shoes. I saw at Walmart a pair of shoes that had Ninja Turtles on them, okay? Before all this happened, these two guys got together because they loved to create and share stories. And you know what they did? They created a mini comic. They printed it at home. They went down to the local Xerox store and they made copies of this mini comic, okay? And what they did with that mini comic, they took it to different comic conventions. They printed up a few copies of it and they started to take it around to comic conventions to share. They went to a comic convention, they're passing out these mini comics, and one of them landed in the hands of guys at Image Comics. Image Comics said, you know what, this is great. We want you guys to create this for us. The next thing you know, Eastman and Laird are creating the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Image Comics. Another example is, do we have any Walking Dead fans? Anybody like Walking Dead? Walking Dead, anybody? Now, if you look at the reason I'm referencing The Walking Dead is because of one gentleman. His name's Robert Kirkman. You may not like Walking Dead. You may like Walking Dead. That doesn't matter. The reason I'm referencing it is because of Robert Kirkman. Robert Kirkman grew up short of Lexington, Kentucky. Okay, that's where he grew up, and he created The Walking Dead. Now, Robert Kirkman could not draw zombies very well, so he got help from his friend who liked to draw zombies, and guess what they did? They created mini comics. They created mini comics about The Walking Dead. They took those mini comics to comic conventions. They went around to tables, and before you know it, Robert Kirkman has a contract with Image Comics to produce The Walking Dead. Now look at The Walking Dead. It's a worldwide phenomenon, right? Everybody knows The Walking Dead all over the world, and so there you go. So there's incentives to creating your own stuff, all right? And my goal is to get you guys excited about this. If you create your own work and we print it for you at the end of this process, who knows? You might be creating the next major hit. Who knows, right? So there's incentive on taking this seriously, okay? And how are we doing on time? Pretty good? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll flesh this out a little bit more.
Got about.
Okay, thank you. So here's kind of a quick version of, let's see, which one should we make this? I think I already made it Michelangelo. That's all right. I'm going to go ahead and sketch this out since I've started it. Now, next time there's going to be a lot more drawing, okay? So I know some of you guys are really interested in kind of seeing some artwork being done, so I promise next time more drawings, okay? Now, this is just a really rough sketch, but you get the idea, okay? I want you guys to get excited about this. I want you to be interested in participating, and I want you to think about where this could lead, okay? What we're going to do now, for the last remaining portion of this, is we're going to talk a little bit here about layout, and also you researching on your own the types of books that you want to produce, okay? If you've chosen to produce a picture book, I want you to go this week and I want you to find some picture books that you enjoy. Find some picture books that you like. I want you to pay attention to how they're created. How did the author tell the story? How did he or she open the story, the beginning? Think about the problem in the story. What's the problem the characters have to solve? And then I want you to think about the conclusion. How did the author tie everything in together and in the book? But while you're also paying attention to the story, look at how the book's created. Pay attention to how many words are on a given page. Okay? If you're interested in graphic novels, go to your library. Check out some graphic novels there at school. And I want you to do basically the same thing. I want you to pay attention to how the creator used panels. Comics are a little more difficult to do than a picture book. On a picture book, you have the entire picture plane. The entire picture plane is the entire page, right? But in a comic, you're fitting all of the information in these tiny boxes. All right? It's probably one of the most difficult formats to go with, but me personally, I prefer comics over picture books, but that's up to you, okay? And then also for mini comics, basically the same thing. Mini comics, you're going to be using panels. We'll talk about these more in depth next time, but go find comics that you enjoy. Pay attention to how the creator moved the story along, how they introduce you to the first page, the first events happening on the very first page, all the way through the problem and then to the conclusion, okay? And for chapter books, they're a little longer. I want you to go check out a few chapter books that you like to read. You have a lot more room here to tell a story with chapter books because there's more space available for words, right? And then I want you to pull all these resources together and start creating your own story. Teachers, what you could be doing right now is kind of assisting the students participating in how they're able to develop their story using these types of parameters, what we talked about. Their favorite works, combined with the 5 elements of a story, combined with what type of book are they hoping to create. Now, if you combine all those 3 things together, at the end, we should have a really cool product. All right? Now, whenever I want to share this with you too, because there's some that may not have heard this the first time I was speaking last week. But art is something that can be used as a career. I went to school in Elkhorn City High School. Okay, it's a little small town on the main edge of Kentucky before you get into West Virginia and Virginia. It's about as far east as you could go in the state. While I was going to school, no one came to my high school or even my elementary and told me that if you like to draw, if you like telling stories, then you can have a career doing this. Nobody did. Kind of just a little bit more about this. I got out of school. I went to college. I didn't study art. I studied political science, which is totally different than art. But while I was at UK, I started drawing cartoons for the Kentucky Colonel, okay? And I couldn't believe it. They were printing my work, and before I knew it, I won a couple of awards. I won the Kentucky Press Association Mark of Excellence Award for editorial cartooning, okay? It shocked me. I couldn't believe it. From there, I started drawing for other newspapers. That led into children's book illustration, and things have grown from there. But my point of all this is this. If you like to draw, if you like to tell stories, which we all do, especially early on in the younger grades, I remember even getting in trouble in class one time for drawing in a notebook. So, anyway. So I did a lot of that. I created characters. I would draw something, make up its history, who the little character is, where he came from, what's he doing. So there's good chances you're already doing this, right? There's careers in this. You don't have to work for Marvel. You don't have to work for DC. You don't have to work for Disney in order to have a career. There's careers in graphic design. There's careers in creating logos for tourism. There's tons of different ways to go about it. So if this is something that you like to do, this is your opportunity to get on board with this program, because what's going to happen at the end, you're going to be able to hold your work in your hand, not run off on a copy machine with staples. We're talking perfect bound. We're talking a very shiny, nice product, okay? And if it's really good, all right, we could send that off for awards, state-based awards through UK, KET. Hal Rogers just introduced a competition. So even national awards we could lead into with your work, all right? And you could get your work out there and share your work. It's about creating and sharing and repeating, okay? That's the goal. And another thing, with your class assignments, and this goes more towards the higher grades a little bit here, but if you do not like it when your teacher hands you back an assignment and it has all those red marks on it, you know what I'm talking about? And you have to rewrite it and resubmit it. If you don't like that process, you would hate being an author, because so much of it is turning in your work and having it just completely ripped apart by an editor and then handed back to you to be rewritten, okay? So think about these opportunities in the classroom. That's what they are. They're opportunities. When your teacher's trying to teach you more about sentence fragments, or she's trying to teach you where to place commas, or how to use proper pronunciation, or all these different variables, those are opportunities for you to hone your craft, get better at what you're doing, because you can do this. You can do better stuff than I could ever hope to do. But you have to start taking it serious right now, all right? And I'll tell you something else, too. If you mess around with alcohol and drugs and stuff, you might as well kiss all these opportunities goodbye. And that's just, it's the bottom line. And I shared with you what happened last time about my mom and my brother, right? I got out of the Army. I was with the 101st Airborne. As soon as I got out of the Army, my mom and my brother passed away within a year. Now, I had two options at that point. I could have given up. I could have just probably went and started drinking or doing some sort of bad behavior. What I decided to do was take those emotions, those terrible feelings, and start applying them towards writing and creating and sharing. Okay? My point of this is that there's opportunities right now for you. This program is an opportunity for you. And I hope you get on board. I hope you get excited about it. I hope you get engaged, get on theholler.org, communicate, share ideas, and let's make a cool product. I bet you right now you're looking, if you look around your room right now, you may be looking at the next Robert Kirkman or the next, I don't know, creator of like Eastman and Laird. You never know, okay? All right. So if you have any questions from anyone, how I want you to do this is type into your screen the space at the bottom there. You can type in your questions if any students have any questions at all, or if you have any comments or anything that I can help you out with to clarify. So you go ahead and type those in if you have anything, okay? And while you're typing, and Kelly, I can draw some for you.
You've got 10 minutes
till
my question answer. Oh, shoot, I set the timer up there for you, so.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, we got time to draw then. We can do some drawings. I guess you know what we could do. We could tie in kind of a little sneak peek for next time. Thank you. So what we could do before we end today, one part of this until we meet next time is going to be constructing character. Remember, that's one element of your story, characters. And I told you to think about characters, flush them out, get to know them, understand them. Whenever I produce a comic strip, I have one called Carbide Bottom, and it's going to be published next year. It's a graphic novel, and it's set in Eastern Kentucky, okay? And one of the characters in my book, Carbide Bottom, is this older gentleman. He's kind of he's a little eccentric, or another word for kind of, you know, he's kind of lost his mind a little, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw for you this character. Now, when I was creating this character, I wanted, he's an older gentleman, okay? I know that about him. He also, the story is set in the winter, so you know he's going to be probably clothed very well, all right? And like I said, he's a little eccentric, which means that, you know, he's kind of got a little loose around the edges a little bit, all right? And so I want to draw all those things in creating my character, all right? And how I did that was I decided, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give him kind of smaller eyes. He wears glasses, okay? And so there we have his eyes, his nose here, okay? He's got a beard. He wears glasses. All right. He has a toboggan on where it's cold. I had a student one time say you look like Uncle Si. I don't know. I guess he does. So we pull inspiration from stuff we like, right? That's what I was talking about earlier. Now basically this character, when I was creating the story, I wanted to create a character that was he's a little eccentric, right? He's a little rough around the edges, and I give him these fluffs of hair coming out. See? And then also give him these bags under his eyes because he's kind of been through it. All right. He also wears a scarf. So, this is Ron. Now, as you can see, he does look a little bit like an older gentleman, right? He's a little eccentric, and he's probably been through it. You can tell that a little bit. So when you're thinking about your characters and how they're going to appear when you're writing your story, consider those things I just talked about. If your story is in the summer, you're probably not going to have a lot of characters running around with jackets on. That's the setting, okay? If your character is older, think about how they appear. That may even affect how they respond to certain problems. You want to think about everything determined about your character. What would your character do in a given situation? Okay? If you want an exercise, let's say you're just thinking, I don't know how in the world I'm supposed to create this entire world, in 1 week. I have an exercise for you that you can do in the classroom. Okay? Pair off into teams. All right? So you have 2 people in a group. And what I want you to do, each one of you, take a piece of paper out, and I want you to write down 3 unrelated items, like a train, a princess, and a basketball. Okay? And then exchange those papers. And what I want you to do with those papers is once you get the other person's list, try to tell a story using those elements somehow, some way. That will help you kind of get prepared for creating your own work, okay? And when I said earlier that I don't want you to use stories that are already created, like I don't want to see any Superman books, or I don't want to see any, I said SpongeBob earlier, okay? That doesn't mean you can't pull from ideas. So that doesn't mean you can't have a character that flies. That doesn't mean you can't have a character that lives under the sea and has a best friend and they work at a hamburger hut, okay? So it's really pulling from ideas, but don't copy it all the way, because that's not what we're wanting here, okay? And share, if you have a sketch, if you have ideas on what you're doing to create your character that works well, once we put out the link and the information on how to get onto the holler.org, get on there and share those things. Maybe you could give a description about your main character, or give a description about your setting, if you have a really unique setting that you're going to use. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from everybody. This is about you. This is about you creating content, okay? And our goal is to get your work printed, and hopefully that work will be accepted, and you can have a career and move towards a career in using your talents, okay? Another cool thing about this, and I want to tell you all about this too, these types of programs out west, the further you go, are really, really, really successful in terms of the results, and they're really popular. Okay, this movement of using sequential art in the classroom, and sequential art's a big word for combining pictures and words to tell a story. It's moving eastward, pretty much. Okay, and there's some around the East Coast that are doing it too, some schools. What's happening here in Kentucky is on the fringe of getting student involvement, student learning, and college readiness and career planning. We're on the cusp of what's happening in terms of innovations with teaching. Okay, this is a medium that you can pull in anything from history to science. You can pull in just about any typical lesson plan that you have in school right now, and you can tell a story about it. You could even the algorithm, right? You have a certain algorithm in math. You could tell a story about how that algorithm is used, and how it's used in real life somehow. Okay, that's just an example. I don't really think that I'd enjoy writing about an algorithm, but you might enjoy writing about an algorithm. So try to be as creative as possible. Try to think about using interesting settings combined with characters that you fully understand and you've created, along with a really cool conflict, all right, or a problem, and there's your plot, okay? All right. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to take 15 minutes here, and we're going to answer some questions, okay? All right, we have Misty Keynes. We have a question saying, can they write a short story? Absolutely. I don't want to limit you guys to what you can and cannot do. But here's the catch on that, okay? We are going to have students that do not like to draw, okay? And that's okay. I'm going to be showing you something next time Students don't like to share their work because they feel like they can't draw like Marvel or DC or whatever. I mean, you see what I created. That's nothing like Marvel or DC comics, okay? It's about the story, all right? The next time we meet, I'll have examples showing. It'll make you feel a lot better. So we want pictures, we want illustrations in there, okay? So what you might consider doing is this. Let's say you have one student who doesn't like to draw, but they love to write. Now listen really close, everybody, because this is important. Let's say you have one student that likes to write, but they do not like to draw. You have another student that likes to draw, but they don't like to write. What's the obvious solution there? We implement them together. They both come in, create a book together, so we have an author and an illustrator. Instead of just one person creating both, pull in so that they can work together. I want to get everyone involved here. And I know not everybody likes to draw. Not everybody likes to write. But through that process of them working as a team, they have to decide things like what part of his or her story are we going to illustrate. They talk about the story. That opens up communication about story construction, and that's what we want in the classroom, right? So thank you. That was a good question. Short story is okay. Just make sure there's illustration in there somewhere. A lot of you guys might be familiar with Shel Silverstein. Shel Silverstein, The Giving Tree, The Light in the Attic. It's a book of poetry, right? But there's drawings in there too. You have a poem with a little drawing that goes with it. That's fine, okay? All right, so we have Stevie Nolan has a question. Can a student write an autobiography? Absolutely. I didn't mention, thank you for that actually, because I hadn't mentioned biographies or autobiographies. I have a comic strip called Soup, and it is an autobiographical comic strip. If you guys go to my website and you want examples from this, ChristopherAirplane.com, click on links to my comics, and you'll see all these, okay? I prefer and love autobiographical and biographical stuff. To me, that is just the absolute coolest. So if you want to do something about your own life, I'm sure you have a lot of interesting tales you can share about high school, so or elementary, junior high. Do that. That is great. Thank you. And we also have one from Melissa Owsley. Are digital manipulated images considered art via photoshopping, GIMP.com, etc.? I would say yes. What do you guys think? You guys think?
Sure, whatever they want to do, but just keep in mind that this is going to a lot be art related. But if they want to do it another way, that's fine.
Okay.
It's their work, their choice.
Okay, that's good. We do have proof for that. One thing I will say on using digitally manipulated images, be careful about copyright stuff. You can't just go on the internet and pull images. Even printing them in a book with a school project could get things kind of a little hairy. So be careful about that. Now, what if you were to take an image and you were to do a digital collage with Photoshop and create your own image out of multiple images? That would probably be the most preferred route to go there, okay? All right, we have another question here. How long should this is Stevie Nolan, how long should a chapter book be? Now, this is a good question. We want as many pages as possible, right?
In 8 weeks' time.
In 8 weeks' time.
In 8 weeks' time.
Okay, we have the capability of printing as low as 5 to 6 pages in a book. Now, that's not much, okay? I want to give a minimum of 5 pages and then as many as you can produce otherwise. I mean that. If your book's 32 pages, a picture book's typically 32 pages and upward, not above 40 pages.
As long as it's something they can complete in the 8-week period.
Yes, we have to have it completed in the 8-week program. Now, you guys probably might be asking, well, what about, how are we going to create this? How are we going to color this? And I'm going to get back to these questions too. Thank you, Lori Shepard, for your students. Sam, I'm a good artist. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. You may see me draw a little more and you may have second thoughts. No, I'm kidding. John Dotson from Phelps Elementary in Pike County wants to know, is there a limit on the number of pages? We covered that one. 5 or 6 pages. Beth Miller, how many students are recommended per group? I would like to keep it 1 or 2, but if you have one, let's say you've got everybody organized, everybody's working on something, and then there's one person over here that's not involved with a team, we can have collaborators up to 3, but I wouldn't go higher than 3 on anything, okay? And one more, Misty Keens, our county is just in session 2 more days this week. You still want a complete story by Monday.
Can I address that?
Yes, let go ahead and...
Okay.
Didn't mean to walk.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to address the last question about does it still have to be completed by Monday. This is what we want you to remember. This is a project-based activity, and students are participating because they want to complete the project. So what we are saying is what we're doing here today is just an introduction. But the project work in project-based learning is what students do independently on their own. So, yes, these sessions are going to go on because many folks are going to have different spring breaks throughout this 8-week session. So we're going to follow that timeline. And if you want a completed book by the 8th week to be published, then you have to follow that timeline. And again, Mr. Epling mentioned the Holler, and here in just a few minutes we're going to talk about the Holler to make it a little more user-friendly on how to get on, because if you use different browsers, it can really get you off track. But this is a project-based learning activity, and we do want the students to be the main focus of this project. Their work, getting on the Holler, talking back and forth to other students, researching other authors and illustrators on the internet, and then posting to the Holler. The Holler is our means of communication. Get on Mr. Epling's website, ChristopherEpling.com, and research his different drawings and those types of things, and then talk to us about it on the Holler so we can share our knowledge and share our information. So I'm going to turn it back over to him, and then I'll talk to you in just a second about the Holler, and then Andrew Castle is going to talk to you about how to connect to Link and make it flow a little more smoothly, and then we will be finished. Arley Boggs, Myrtle Boggs, stay on with us after everyone else is dismissed, because that's our next location, and we want to make sure that we tell you a couple things.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Thompson. We've got some supplies that we're going to be distributing and getting out to the schools for you to create your work with. Now, one of the questions we had early on was what type of medium. Now, medium, we're going to get into all these things, but medium is an art term discussing what you use to create the art with. Mediums can be all sorts of different stuff like clay or collage or paint or even metals. So when we're talking about medium here, we're going to talk about color, okay, producing color. And the mediums that we're going to choose is going to be sort of limited, but there's a reason for that. Paint, we got 8 weeks, right? Paint, when you have to wait for it to dry, you've got the whole cleanup process of keeping your tools kind of clean and everything. That wouldn't work, all right? So we're breaking it down into colored pencils, graphite pencils, ink, and that's our medium, okay? And we have supplies that we're going to be sending out. So we're going to have ink type Sharpie markers we're sending everybody. We're going to have smaller ones and the larger broad tip ones for inking for comics, okay? These are some this is professional level type pencils here. The Stradler pencils. Cartoonist artists use these pencils. You guys are going to get supplied with these. And then also the colored pencils, we're going to be giving out sets of these for everybody to use, and then the graphite pencils as well. So those are coming out to the schools for you to produce these in by the third session. Okay. I want to encourage you guys to stay positive. I know writing a story by next Monday might seem a little difficult, but students, if you get motivated about this, do not feel like this is an assignment. This is an opportunity. Okay. If you've ever wanted a chance to express something that you wanted to say, this is your chance to express it, okay? All right, so keep that in mind as we move forward, all right? All right, I want to thank everybody for your time today. We're going to now have a moment where we're going to be discussing a little bit more about the technical aspects, the holler.org, and then also using the link up here, okay? All right, so thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Epling, and I don't know how we can applaud him and not get all the background noise, so I think we can just do a big thumbs up. Everybody, if you enjoyed Mr. Epling, let's just give him a big thumbs up, my God. Thank you. All right, so in the remaining time that we have left, let's talk very quickly about going on to the Holler. Bruce Parsons, who created the Holler, shared some information with us that if you try to go onto the Holler through Explorer
the web browser Explorer, that it distorts the holler, so it makes it very hard to manipulate and hard to use. But Safari, Chrome, and Firefox are 3 browsers that will keep the holler looking like it should. And once you go, every student that's listening to us today, every teacher that's listening to us today, make sure that you go to theholler.org, and Mr. Andrew Castle is going to type that in the message box right now so you know that website, theholler.org, and register yourself. Then once you register on the Holler, which is a big umbrella, you're going to go down and look for the Art Holler and click on that and then ask to join the Art Holler. So 2 things, you join the Holler and then you ask to join the Art Holler. So Mr. Castle's going to type in the Art Holler so you don't forget that you have to do both, okay? All right, so once you get on there, then you can start talking to all your friends across this 17-county region, McGoffin and Letcher and Pike and Harlan and everybody that's joining us today. And you can share your work, because the biggest part of project-based learning is that you get out there and find what's good and share. Just like Mr. Epling shared with us today, we want the students to share with each other, because you might find a really cool technique on how to put words on a page, or how to draw a character, or how to add color. Share that on the Holler. Then what we would eventually like for you to do is to use your computer or recording device, and you record some video of yourself doing just what Mr. Epling did and post it to the Holler so that other children can learn from you. It's one thing to type the words in, but we'd really like to see you doing the same thing that he did. So this Art Holler is for our students, and we as the adults can't make that Art Holler what it needs to be. It's the students that can make it what it needs to be by adding your video, by adding your comments, by adding pictures. If you find a really neat website that has information that can help you, you can post that on the Holler, the Art Holler. So we really want your help with the Art Holler. I'm going to stop with the Holler, and hopefully maybe next time we'll do an example of how to get on the Holler through the desktop. But we don't want to take up any more time, and I want Mr. Andrew Castle to talk to the adults about how to get onto Link a little more smoothly so we don't have any interruptions or knocking us off or whatever. Mr. Castle, thank you.
Hi, thanks. This will be really quick. I typed this in the box a moment ago, but as a reminder, when you join these meetings, don't call into Kelly via link. Either click on the calendar and go through the calendar link via your web browser, and you can connect through the web. Or if you do have Link installed, click on the calendar on Link, and if you've already accepted the meeting request, you can click there and Link will take you into the meeting. That's the way to join these meetings. Also, if you can, join as an attendee, not as a presenter. If you're a presenter, you can actually click some buttons and sort of take over. Make sure you mute yourself as well. And I will, on my end, I will make sure I click that they're locked on this screen, so it's all you see. On your end, you can undo that. So make sure it's left and you can see this large screen. If you have any questions, either email me, andrew.castle@johnson.kyschools.us, or Kelly Thompson. Her email's up here as well. And she's obviously on your Link contacts list, so you can send her an email quickly and she'll get it to me, or she'll answer. That's it.
All right, that concludes session 1. This has been recorded and it will be posted to the Art Holler on the Art Gallery on theholler.org shortly. So you can look forward to seeing it on there. So that concludes our session. You can go out of Link. Everybody except Myrtle Boggs and Paul Green stay on with us. Thank you, guys. Bye, McGoffin County. Something like bye. All right. Thank you.
Perfect time. This teacher's got it made. You all are always this quiet. Mr. Bobby and I went to high school together. We were not this quiet when we were in high school, were we, Bobby? We talked all the time about everybody and everything. Even the thinkers. Yeah, even the thinkers.